it's more about, okay, how powerful are we really, and how can we really create the life from the inside out. I mean, we touched, like, scratched the surface in the very first one about like self-leadership and creating from the inside out and so on, but breaking out from the matrix, it's a juicy topic. It's a big one.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting to how it relates to the cliffhangers that I left in the last episode. Because if you remember, I left like 2 teasers in the last episode. One was a short-term teaser and one was a long-term teaser.
Yeah.
The short-term teaser was about, the very much related to this topic that you're talking about, that how thinking that we are gods can make us narcissistic. And how we get trapped in that bubble. And the second topic, which is basically the matrix, is how to, like, you help people to become themselves. I help them to go beyond themselves. And for me, going beyond yourself is going beyond the matrix, because the way I see it, you are the matrix.
This is so interesting. I'm already curious. Oh my goodness. Okay, awesome. How are you feeling overall today after not sleeping super long?
My usual.
I
I am used to going like even 1 or 2 days without sleep. While I was doing the retreats, like we would go 48 hours without sleeping, and I would be like the participants would just be participating. I would actually be working. So
why wouldn't you sleep?
Because we do the ceremonies at night. So it goes on the whole night, and then in the morning again there is something. And the whole day there is something. So I may get like an hour in between, or just like take a power nap of 20 minutes or something, but
that's intense. Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah. Like my body and my mind are trained for like
extremes.
Very, very extreme, intense situation.
Yeah. Wow. That's interesting.
Yeah.
You even mentioned it also in one of the videos, that it's an extreme personality, kind of addictive, like
hyper addictive.
Wow.
Yeah. It is I think it's all related, that I have a capacity for big in everything. Extremes in everything, whether it's addiction or whether it is working, whether it staying up or staying awake, or even love, like it for some people it's super overwhelming how deeply I love, because they're not ready to accept that much or that intensity. The only times have felt fully someone can receive it is animal.
So would you describe it a little bit as obsessive?
No, not at all. It's nothing. It's not obsessive love. It's deep love. And that is what is intimidating for people, is that it's not that I'm after them. It's just that when I am there, I am so present and my love is so strong that it's too much.
Interesting.
But what is even more interesting for me is like the way animals react to me. Like I have a very weird effect on animals. Like they are, and it's not just me, like several people have given me this feedback. Like the way animals behave around me is very different from anything that they
What
see.
do they do?
No, they're like just like, it's like they're hypnotized.
Wow.
And I've
Nice.
had very weird animals doing very weird things. Like I have had frogs jumping onto my leg, walking on my hand, walking all over my body. I have had bees walking on my face for like an hour. I just had like this giant bee that was just hovering on my face, going like inside my nose, figuring, exploring my nose, exploring my eyebrows.
Oh, it's incredible that you just remain still and like, okay, just do your thing.
Yeah, I take all of it as part of my training. It's like, okay, I have to see what this is.
That's so cool. Wow. That's
And
really
even dogs, like there are dogs. It's like my teacher's dog, for example. In the beginning, like the first 2 months, every time I would go to see her, she would get so excited she would start peeing. Like she like the whole floor would be wet because she was so excited. And it would only happen with me. Like she would see everyone else and she would be happy and jumping and all of that. But she would see me, she would lie down like this and just start peeing. Like it was uncontrollable for her. Then
you're like
I
a whisperer.
something like that. Like I still don't feel like I have full control over that energy, but I really feel like that is, my energy, my love is like really it's it's not intense in loudness, it's intense in the quality.
Mm.
It's like
Mm.
you can have a lot of low quality energy or you can have more condensed high quality energy or like
Yeah.
even a lot of high quality energy, but it's not loud. It's not like look at me, give me attention, or like, I want you, I need you. It's not that obsessive kind of thing. It's just like, yeah, I am coming from a place of completeness. I feel so full that it's radiating. Like that is what is very overwhelming for people, is how fully I show up.
Mm. So that's who you are,
Yeah,
being.
I I have done a lot of work to get here. And it was very difficult to get here because I was very ashamed of having this, and very
Interesting.
guilty because it would hurt people,
Hmm.
or like, they would, because it was so intense and they would not be able to receive it. I would feel like, oh, there's something wrong with me, they don't like me,
Interesting.
until I started realizing it's their own shame that they can't take it. It's because of their own shame, their own lack of love for themselves, that they can't take it. That is why they reject me. And when I started meeting, I met I think 2 or 3 people who like were able to fully receive. And even though it was difficult, and even though there were challenges, like they were able to keep going.
Hmm.
So that was the shift for me, was like, okay, it's not about me. But
No, of course it's not. Of course it's
it
not.
takes a long time to realize that when there's no one giving you that feedback, when there is
Mm.
no one, like if everyone feels intimidated, then you feel like there's something wrong with you.
Yeah. But at the same time, like for me personally, in these kind of topics, like when somebody shows love, exudes love towards me, I think sometimes I just like, yeah, but I don't see that type of love. Like meaning maybe I feel the love for that person too. And we can exchange and be in that love bubble, but it's not a romantic bubble. That's
Yeah,
that's
of course.
where in my head a lot of the times it happened in my
Mhm,
life where like I just don't mix those things up where another
mhm,
person might mistake it for a romantic love. Well,
mhm,
actually, no, it's not.
mhm.
And yeah, and that's where it becomes a little bit of a between human beings. It can
Yes.
be challenging to
Mhm,
really be like, no, that's not that. It's not the romantic love. It's just that yeah, I do feel love, but it's
mhm,
not the same as maybe you see it. That's
mhm.
what becomes a bit of a I don't know how to
Yeah,
handle.
I mean that because I have been single for so long, that is mostly the only type of love that I show, which is very intimidating for people because also, like, energetically I communicate that and people also feel that. Like, of course, there have been times where I have liked someone and also there is a romantic element and that also becomes clear. But when it's not there, like just love, right? Like, just to be in that space is too much for people.
I think so many people really mistake romantic love or love in general for something
Mhm,
else, and they have expectations, and then it becomes awkward and like all this kind of like, okay, what is this type of situation?
mhm,
And I personally have experienced it many, 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 many times that
mhm,
a man I would receive those kind of like, oh, we're kind of just friends, but then actually underneath it all, there's a hidden agenda, and
yeah.
that's like, and honestly, this is something that just burst like a bubble quite recently for me,
Mhm,
and several of my just friends turned out to have something deeper, and I was like, what the fuck? Like, can't we just be friends between a man and a woman, please? Like, what is going on? And to me, it was like my ex actually pointed that out to me. He was like, maybe there is a little bit of a naive attitude within
mhm,
yourself because you always see that it's like, oh, it's possible. But yeah, I still believe it's possible to be just friends. But
mhm.
somehow, in my personal life, in my personal experience, and like all those male friends that I have or had, they would still somehow have other expectations. And
Mhm.
it's like, what's going on? Like, why is this the case?
Because I think women just don't understand men or like have not been taught really what men are. And I can talk from experience because I have seen all that in myself and I'm very cognizant of it.
Hmm.
That only broke for me like maybe 3 years ago. Until then, also, like, there would be times I would get glimpses outside of it, but the program was so strong of mating. The mating program was so strong that you can't, like, men can't think when that program is active. It's like it's just women have to get that.
So, what needs to happen? Is it actually okay? So, do you believe it's possible for a man and a woman to be just friends?
I have I have female friends who are just friends, but it was only after a certain point where I was able to realize I am more than that program. And
Mm.
that program is way too strong, like way too strong.
Mm.
Even now, I have to keep it in check. It's not like I'm done with it. Right now, it's just like, okay, I am super aware of it. I can definitely control it and realize, okay, that is the program talking. And I think the other interesting thing is you spoke about expectation. And I would put it either in the category of expectations or interest, is that I think even if there is interest or expectation, the key is, can you let that go and evolve beyond that?
Mm-hmm.
So you may find that you love someone, and then you may also have a romantic interest in them. And
Mm-hmm.
then you realize that that person doesn't have a romantic interest in you. Can you let that go? That is the real question for me.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of denying that, is accepting, yes, I am interested, and yes, this person is not interested in me. For me, it ties back very much into the narcissism, because in narcissism, you don't see what the other person is and what they want. You just project yourself onto them. If I like them, they like me, and I cannot handle them not liking me. I cannot handle that rejection.
Yeah.
This is the problem for most people, is that they cannot handle the rejection. And when they get rejected, then it affects the friendship and everything. So, and I think this is a challenge, especially for attractive people in general and attractive women. Obviously, like, you are attractive. There is no denying that. That is obvious. So obviously, men will be interested in you. Can they see you beyond that? Can they see you beyond their program of wanting you?
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
exist beyond their program for them?
Yeah. Exactly.
And I will tell you, when what I meant before is women just don't get men. And what I mean by that is that women don't exist for men beyond their program. For most men.
Mm. Mm.
When it comes to friendships, like, okay, you may have work relationships. Even in work relationships, it's very complicated. I really don't think that men are, are capable of seeing women without that program.
So interesting. And that's pretty much exactly what my ex meant also. He was like,
Mhm.
listen, I know as a man, I know how men, and that's exactly what he said also, like especially when a woman is attractive physically,
Mhm.
beautiful woman who loves herself, who takes care of herself, who looks good in the mirror and all of these things, plus is emotionally intelligent and intelligent overall
And powerful, like,
and powerful. But then he was like, it's impossible for a man, it's impossible to resist that and to not
Mhm.
think, like you said, deeper and beyond all these things. And I was like, wow, okay, that's really bursting my bubble and believing, being naive and believing that, that it's just so actually in that sense, it's probably for a woman it's easier to not be as physically attractive and to not be as, I don't know, magnetic, for example.
But I think that's why I said people, I said attractive people, because I think that goes for men also. Like, when a man is attractive, women can't think beyond that. And I think it's pretty real. I think maybe it's a little bit easier for women to go beyond the program, but I don't know how much, because that's not my experience. Like, I think you can talk more from that, but I don't know for the
Well,
average woman how it is. Like, when you find a man
yeah.
attractive.
Honestly, from my experience, like it can be the most attractive, physically attractive man. It can be like tall and like
No, so
athletic.
I'm not talking about physical attraction, is attraction. Like, you
Mhm.
want the man. For whatever reason you want the man, and you
Mhm.
realize that the man doesn't want you, can you look beyond that? That is the question.
Yeah. Hmm.
So it's not just physical, sexual. Like, you could be physically or sexually attracted because you love the mind of the person, because you love their emotional intelligence, whatever, their sensitivity. You could be attracted for a variety of reasons. And that applies from men to women also.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I'm thinking about like when that happened. First of all, for me personally, to be attracted to a man is very difficult to begin with. Romantically, it's extremely difficult because my standards are so freaking high that for me to be like, oh wow, that's really someone worth my attention. That's like once in years type of situation. And then if that happens and then they don't have interest in me in that kind of situation, then it absolutely is possible, because what it shows to me, like somehow then it's like, okay, somebody doesn't want me back. The way I then kind of reprogram in my own mind is like, oh, well, that means that we're just not meant to be in that kind of dynamic. And somehow there's this like, okay, well then their programming means that it's not meant for my programming. So I just kind of shift it around, where it's not some kind of a, oh, it hurts me and it breaks my heart type of situation, but it's more like, interesting. Okay, fine. Like it's not that big of a deal somehow. Although maybe I have never really been in a like properly that kind of situation, so I'm probably talking from a bit of a theoretical point of view. So in reality, if it's really someone that I would be like, wow, like that is just completely like type of situation, and maybe it would be very different in reality. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it really comes down to how much you can handle rejection.
Yeah.
Like that is the crucial factor. And that was for me, the turning point was when I kept working on being rejected. Then I was able to like have multi-layered relationships also, like, with people. Like, okay, because now I've been like with several of my clients, I have a very friendly relationship, deep friendship, even women. So, it's for me, it's entirely possible because like I did that work of separating myself from the programs and realizing there is more. But it is very deep. At least I can say from a man's point of view, it is overwhelming when the program is in action. Like it's almost impossible to come out of that and think really objectively, or like to separate yourself from that.
It's so funny how we humans are still so animals. It's so instinctual.
Exactly.
Such an instinct to mate. It's like almost scanning everybody if that's a potential somebody, like wow.
Absolutely. So this is, I think, the work is like, have you done the work of becoming something more than your animal?
Yeah.
Without denying your animal, without rejecting it. So I think this is the tricky part. A lot of spirituality is about asceticism and rejecting the animal. And that is, in my opinion, very toxic, very unhealthy. A lot of religious like programming, or even like in Buddhism, it's super dogmatic. It's not allowing you to embrace that, to own that. In my opinion, like the real key is to fully own that. And you see proof of that. Like in all this denial and rejection, a lot of these spiritual leaders get discovered to be rapists, molesters, having a very strong dark side, right? Like so what is going on there? They're talking about asceticism and they're going around raping women. So what is happening there?
Crazy.
What is happening is denial. Like they are in denial. It's not a practical reality. It's not a possibility to just say no to that part. You have that part.
Yeah.
So the thing is, can you find yourself beyond that part while having that part. That was my journey. It's not denial and rejection. It's can you fully accept you and be more than that?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and
I
talking about, go
Go
ahead.
ahead. No, you go ahead. It's a
Oh.
completely different topic.
Yeah, so the whole rejection topic, this breakup that I told you about is the first time in my life that somebody rejects me.
Mm,
It was the first time that I was not the initiator, but I was the
mm,
receiver of the breakup. And it's very interesting because it didn't break me actually at
mm,
all. Like it was a shock, it was out of the blue and it was a surprise, and I was like, why didn't you say anything earlier? Like, what
mm,
the fuck? Like, let's talk, did it hurt? Yes, of course it did. But even though it hurt, and it still continues to hurt in some capacity, because I mean it's still like, it's kind of cutting the cord in some sense, like, okay, something is over, even though I didn't see it coming, type of situation. But at the same time, that's why I said what I said. Like, if somebody says no, then I just look at it from a different perspective, and I try to see, like, okay, so what actually is happening?
mm,
Not like, oh my gosh, it has to do with me and it's what did I do wrong type of situation. It's more like, I wonder what's going on, like what's the dynamic that's happening here, and what kind of opportunity I see in it as well.
mm,
um, so it's a very interesting experience. And now that
mm,
it's 9 days or something, today is Sunday, so it's been over a week now. And it's also a process to be like, okay, at first it was a shock, like almost like the whole grieving process. I literally went through the grieving process within one day,
mm,
because at first it was a shock and like, what the fuck, and denial, like, no way you're doing this right now. And then all the, not really anger, I didn't have anger, but all of these, like, okay, now then it's acceptance, then it's opportunity, and all of, like, basically the whole roller coaster within one single day. And then there's an aftermath after that as well,
mm,
where it's like, okay, so how do I actually feel about it? And
mm,
how do I actually feel about the change, about him, about us, about me, about my future, about my present, about what's really going on and stuff like that? And it's really interesting, it's fascinating, really.
mm. Yeah, I feel like my story is, I have realized is pretty interesting
Mm.
in this aspect, because I used to think for most of my life, like pretty much up until 2 months ago, I used to think I'm very undesirable and women
Mm.
don't want me. That was like my thing. And even like I have only had one proper long-term relationship, and my ex used to tell me, I'm not with you because of your looks.
Oh my God, that's a terrible thing to say.
But it was just confirming what I believed about myself already. So it was just like, well, yeah, I know. And I know that I have other qualities. And I don't care what reason you're with me. I am just happy being with you. So that was my persona.
Mhm.
2 months ago, I was having a conversation with two women who I was in the retreat. So I was in a teaching position. So I was, like in a very like I have my boundaries. I'm not sending out any signals or anything. Like I'm just doing my thing. I'm working, but also like when I'm working, it's with a lot of love. It's with a lot of compassion. So on the last day of the retreat, I was sitting with two women, And one of them told me, do all women fall in love with you? Like, do all the women who come on the retreat fall in love with you? I was like, what? What are you talking about? I was like, well, maybe, like a brother or something, like someone to adore, or like an uncle or something like that, someone who's taking care of them. And she's like, no, it's, so I was like, okay. And she's like, no, it's lust. Like, whoa, what? What are you talking about? It just blew my mind completely because I never imagined that someone would like me. And she said that it was a topic of conversation in the women of the group, that they find me attractive and they find me desirable. I was like, what is happening right now? Like my whole ego was breaking down. I was having a literal ego death in that moment. And I was feeling so attacked in a sense. I was like, what is happening? Because also, I'm supposed to be the facilitator. I am supposed to have these boundaries and all of a sudden I'm like completely caught by surprise. And then, like I started talking to some people like who I'm working with on myself. And while working with them, I started realizing like women have been coming on to me my whole life. I have just not been accepting it. I have just been justifying and making excuses. It's this, is that, or they're whatever. Like never accepting that they want me. There must be some reason they're crazy or something like that. Like, it's not that they want me, they want something else, or they're not attracted to me for me, they're attracted to me because I am smart, or because I am from India, I'm exotic, or some nonsense. I would always have to come up with an excuse, or because I am in a position of power or something like that. It was never just like they want me. So that started breaking down completely, and I started realizing and started accepting, and then I started receiving. And it was so weird for the first month of doing that, right? I started going out to the city and just started receiving that and started realizing, yeah, like it's happening. I have just been blinding myself to that aspect. So I came to it from that point of view because I was always having relationships with women that did not involve that element because I never thought that they want me. So I would always build the friendship aspect first. And even if there was a romantic interest, I was able to have a relationship, a friendly relationship, because I never thought that they would even want me or that they want me. So for me, I would reject myself before they would reject me.
Yeah.
So that's why for me, I feel like the process was very different. I learned how to have friendly relationships with women without that element. And if that element exists, I know how to handle the rejection of that and just be like, okay, well, I know that they're not interested in me because I'm not desirable. So what does it matter anyway? We can still be friends.
That's so fascinating. And it reminds me of what I personally experience in relationship dynamics is, I think lust is born when you are seen by that person, like truly seen. So let's say if I think about myself, when do I feel really attracted to someone is when I feel like they get me. They make me feel like I can be myself and it will just flow naturally, and it makes me feel like, oh my gosh, like this actually makes me melt, like all the bars are going down. So when I hear you speak about your story, if I put myself in a position of a woman who is in a retreat and listening to you in that teaching position, it's not about authority. It's not about, like, oh, I know so much, I'm so intelligent. No, you are sharing things and you make me feel in the retreat setting that I am being seen and I can be vulnerable around you. And being vulnerable around you makes me feel safe being vulnerable. And that's where lust is born, because it makes you feel like, I feel like I'm being held in this love that you're providing. And oftentimes it's a huge contrast compared to what a woman might be experiencing in their life somewhere else, and maybe in a marriage, or maybe they have never felt like it's even possible. And then why they're like, oh my God, you're giving me something that I've never experienced in my entire life. And that's where this whole lust and passion starts like bubbling up, because there's like, oh, what is this?
Yes.
Does it make sense?
So that's so interesting. And also, like, when that whole experience was happening with these two women, I was able to collect myself very quickly because I'm trained. Like, no matter what a participant throws at you, you keep going. So I started actually asking them questions like, what is it about me that you find attractive? And this is basically the feedback that they were given. But they started, well, it was all very funny, because my response after they said that was like, I don't even see myself as a man. Like, that was my response. It was so weird. And that has been also like part of my persona, is like, I was distancing myself from being a man because it is so, like, masculinity is so toxic generally. And it was also in me and had been healing that toxic masculinity for a long time. And because I had been doing that, I was rejecting masculinity entirely and looking at myself more like, like something in between, not male or female. I am more. And I am more. I know that. But I also have the male part, which like, in that retreat, I started accepting it. That yes, I am a man. And I literally, like, in the closing in front of the whole group, my sharing was, in this retreat, I realized I am a man.
Wow.
So yes, I think that is what is very overwhelming. It is such a contrast to every experience, based on what I was sharing before, is that men they can't do that. Like, they are so in the program, and women feel it. It's like, unless you're being naive or, like, just wanting to block that energy, if you pay even a little bit attention, you will realize, like, men have that energy towards you. Now that your bubble has burst, I think you will start realizing it faster, that yes, there is something here.
Yeah, which is really a big challenge actually for like mating and for finding the true connection because of that thing, because there's so much of that, like, naive bubble, as well as the programming of a man, and the other way around, and so many other more things in that. Then it's like, okay, so when is it really a true connection then? Because let's say, taking an example of you and these two women in the retreat, well, to some extent, it's also a mirage, that they look at you and they're like, wow, he represents a man that I always wanted. But is it really the man when they look at you, or is it just a representation of what they desire and they have been longing for a long time? So it's really a tricky thing to then kind of wake up from it and be like, okay, is this just a representation, an image of what I now know I want and desire and long for, or is it the actual person that I want? how to distinguish.
This is what I call going out of narcissism. This is exactly the topic. Because in the narcissism, you are still craving what you need and what you want. You're still not meeting the other person. If you remember last time I gave the metaphor of the house.
Yeah.
Right? So in most humans are trapped in a tiny room in the basement of a mansion. The mansion is the whole self. Most humans are trapped in this tiny room in the basement, and the mansion is crawling with other people, other programs. The work of self-development is to become the owner of the mansion and to own the house and become the house, become the full self. Then comes the next step is stepping out of the house. That is when you can really see the other person, because until then you're always looking out of the window, and the window has all kinds of distortions and filters, and you never really even see what the other house looks like because you're looking through that filter, that distortion. So walking out of the house is when you really see the other person. Then you really know, is this the person I want to be with?
How often do you think it actually happens when somebody or when a couple is like that pure? Because what we're talking about is purity.
Yes.
Beyond all the stuff, beyond all the conditions, beyond all the images and lenses through which we look at things, how often do people actually connect from a place of purity?
I think it's very rare, and I want to give some distinctions there, because I think it can happen very spontaneously, where when you really meet that person, you enter into that realization, because maybe you are connected through multiple lifetimes. It's not only in this life, but like, you have a bond that's crossing this reality, and just looking into the eyes of the other person or just seeing them, you realize there is something very different here. So that is one possibility. The other is that you don't realize immediately, even though there is a very strong connection, and it builds over time, and you realize over time as you shed your layers, and then you realize, oh, this is who I have been looking for. So that is another thing. I think what happens most of the time, even when this happens, is that it happens prematurely. It doesn't happen through the process of owning your house and stepping out. It happens that I just jumped out of my house and saw the other person and realized this connection is there. And then the connection is formed, they get together, and then they go back into their houses, and the relationship becomes toxic still, because they have still not done the work of healing and owning the house. So there is a loving, deep connection, but there is also a lot of toxicity on top of that.
Yeah.
So I think it is very rare, but it's not that rare. And you don't have to wait till the house is cleaned.
Yeah.
I think even if you meet the person earlier, just knowing that you have to clean the house and you're still not really meeting the person all the time. You may encounter them really for short periods, but most of the time you're still looking at them through your filter, and you have to still keep doing the work. So that is the way I look at this.
Yeah, so it's rare, but not that rare. And I think now that you say that, it's also how I want to believe that's the case. Because I think what it comes down to is having that connection and that intuitive feeling that this is somehow the person, maybe for a season, for a reason, or for a lifetime, like they say. But at the same time, you take ownership over cleaning the house and being like, you know what? All I want is for this person to be untouched as much as possible by my shit. It's kind of this unconditional love that you feel that connection and you somehow, not really that you want to protect them, because it's not really your job to protect them, but it's like I need to take care of myself to be able to give them their own freedom to do their own thing. And it reminds me of this quote by who is it, like John Ron or something like that, where he says, and maybe I even said that quote already in the previous talk we had, I will take care of me for you if you take care of you for me. And that's kind of what I'm trying to say, that there is that deep connection. And at the same time, it's like, but I don't want to vomit my own shit onto you, because you don't, it's not your job to deal with my conditioning.
There is a nuance here that I want to point out, that I believe that partners have they can have complementary toxicity, or like I would even go as far as saying healthy toxicity, where the toxicity is teaching what you need. So you do end up vomiting, you do end up hurting your partner. If they are on the path and they take that as something to grow, is great. Then that for me is when it becomes truly unconditional, is that you don't need to hold back. Is that you can just be you, and you, through your being, are helping your partner.
Yeah.
And as your partner is receiving these lessons and healing, you will also heal your being. So people have this idea that there is this purest version of me which is perfect. But I do believe that even the being is imperfect and needs work.
Yeah.
And allowing yourself to be an imperfect being, and allowing that to have its consequences, and allowing those consequences to shape you and heal you. For me, that is a complete relationship. It's full. It's really becoming unconditional.
And it brings me also to something considered unconventional, where it could also even mean that it's not a typical relationship, not a typical romantic commitment, not a typical romantic partnership, where it's like, okay, it might show up as in, the stuff that you vomit is, well, maybe I have difficulty to commit, for example, and maybe what I need is a little bit of distance, and that is my imperfection with which I'm playing in this interaction that we have. And yet we still have that bond, we still have that relationship. It's just not a conventional relationship, because there are so many like rules in the society of how a relationship is supposed to look like, a romantic relationship is supposed to look like, that it has to be, we are now a couple, or there's a future, and this is how it works, and we are exclusive, or we are this, or we are that, and this is how it looks like, and I'm supposed to support you in this way, and you're supposed to do this for me, and like all of these rules that for some people actually they don't work. For some people it's just not what they deeply need or desire or even accept. And that's where this whole acceptance and the unconditionality comes in, where it's like, wait a second, actually I still want you in my life, but not in the same way as fitting in that box that we're taught to have to fit in, and playing with that and being like, you know what, okay, I'm willing to be flexible around it, and to find my way. How can we navigate so that it's still loving and supportive and comes from the right place, and somehow still enables both of us to be true to who we are and to each other. And it's so complex, but it's a journey. It's a wild journey.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I fully resonate with whatever you said just now. I mean, even an affair can be very educational. It can teach you a lot. It can awaken a lot of things in you, a lot of lesson that you need to learn. I think, yeah, I fully believe anything can be a teacher, and it can take any form and any thing. Well, I don't know how to put it, but yeah, it can be very unconventional.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. And it's a very interesting challenge also. And even like, for example, um all the pressures that come from the society. And we spoke about like growing up in India, or growing up in the Catholic environment in my case, and all the expectations that come from the family, and how other people want you to fit in that box. And then you're like, no, actually I want to do my own thing. And does it mean that I still have a vision of how I think I would like a relationship to be? Yes, there are some ideas. And I mean, I guess to some extent we all have an idea of what we think we want, but is that the reality of how things are unfolding, and how will they unfold over time? Maybe not necessarily. And I think the challenge is to allow ourselves to just be flexible, and to just be like, how can I allow myself to have the freedom, give myself the permission to just go with the flow and feel it as you go, without putting yourself in some kind of like, oh, this is how it should be, or this is, just isn't according to what my plan was. And it's not how my plan was. Now it feels like I'm a failure, because like, oh, I'm supposed to be in a romantic relationship by now, for example. And it's like, well, maybe you already are, just not a conventional one. Maybe you already are experiencing what you were supposed to experience. It's just not the way you thought it would be. And that's the beauty of it. And that's also the imperfect perfection of life.
Yeah, I mean, when I am coaching someone, and if relationships come up, that is usually the angle I take. I'm not a relationship expert. I have not been I've been in one relationship series, and I have not been in a relationship for 10 years. So I can't coach people in relationships, but I can challenge their beliefs about relationships, because I am so far from the paradigm, because normal is so abnormal for me that when people are talking for me, I just say, why did you just say that? What is that about? What is the underlying belief there? It's so ridiculous. And then they realize, oh yeah, like, where is this program coming from? Why do I want the relationship to be that way? So my like, if I am coaching someone, I can't give them relationship advice, because I don't do that. Whether you should be single, whether you should stay in the marriage, whether you should break up, have an open relationship, I can't tell you all that. It's not my thing. But I can challenge you and give you questions that will help you to figure out that answer for yourself.
Yeah, I think it kind of, maybe we touched it a little bit in the one of the previous videos. That for me, it's a matter of, okay, what do you really want? Like, what does your heart want truly? Like, how do you envision a relationship? How do you envision a dynamic? How do you envision just everything to do with how your romantic life evolves and unfolds and all these things, and yet detaching from it.
Mm-hmm.
So you have an idea of what gives you that sense of like, oh, this just feels so great.
Mm-hmm.
But then detaching from having to mold whatever it is that's happening in your life into that.
Mm-hmm.
So you have, it's almost like you have a sketch, you have a plan that you have very clearly defined, but then you're not trying in real life to take that dynamic and to shove it in that sketch. It's like it has to be this way. No, it also flows, and it's a thing to play with. It's like clay. It's not a concrete that now has to be this way as it was defined in the sketch. It's more like a clay that you can play with and feel into it and follow your intuition and follow your heart and play with the other person's or people's clays as well, and then also allowing the surprise factor to be like, I wonder, I'm open to whatever happens next.
Two things I thought while you were talking. One is, asking that question, what do you really want? You said from the heart. I like to ask, what do you really want from the heart, mind, and body? Like, be clear on all of that. And even your soul, like, go full in exploring what do you really want. Because even your mind has needs in a relationship. Even your body has needs in a relationship. So be fully clear on what you want completely. And sometimes it can be in conflict. Like your heart wants someone, but your mind doesn't want them, and to respect that. To fully honor your full self. That maybe my body wants this person, but my mind doesn't really. And that is what a lot of people are doing. Most of the people nowadays are just having body relationships. There's no mind, there's no heart. So a real full relationship requires you to be full. And the only way to do that is that you have to know what you fully want.
Yeah.
The second thing that it's very interesting because I asked this question just 2 days back to a client. And when I asked her the question, she said, first I asked her, have you ever thought of what you really want from a relationship? And she's like, no, I've never asked myself this question. And then she said, I feel very embarrassed saying, not because this seems like such a simple and obvious question to ask yourself. And I told her, there is nothing to be embarrassed about because nobody ever asks you this question. Everyone only asks you the question, are you in a relationship? They only care whether you're single or you're not. Yeah. And if you are single, then they will pity you or tell you, oh, why not? What happened? And if you are in a relationship, they are trying to find out, are you going to get single? Are you happy in the relationship? But most people will not ask, almost no one will ask you the question, what do you want from a relationship? So it's obvious that if you've not heard that question, you won't ask yourself that question. Unless you have some epiphany that I should ask myself this question.
This is so crazy because guess what? I mean, I work with my clients mainly on relationship topics. Right? And my experience with each and every client, or even a potential client, whoever just reaches out to me, like, do you know what you want? Nobody does. No one, it's so bizarre. Nobody ever thinks about it. And I'm saying it to exaggerate. Probably some people out there do think about it. But in my experience, it's such a rare thing that somebody actually thought it through.
That is the distinction. Even if people think about it, they think very superficially.
Yeah. Exactly. And so often it's more like it just happened. it just happened. I just met someone, it just somehow unfolded, and now suddenly we are 30 years married. It's like,
Right. I think we are 30 years married and 29 years and 7 months miserably married.
exactly. That's the that's the weird thing. Like, it's coming back to programming, right?
Mhm.
It's such an obvious, non-obvious thing that you just happen to be in that program, that it just somehow happened.
Mhm.
And then 30 years later, you wake up and you look back and you're like, what the fuck did I did?
Mhm.
Did I do? Like, what just happened? For 30 years, I was completely asleep.
Mhm.
I didn't realize how I recreated the same reality over and over and over and over again. And now I wake up and I'm being asked this question, what do I want in my relationship? And I realize how I fucked up.
Mhm.
Why did I fuck up? Because I never even thought about what I wanted. I never even allowed myself to think twice before I made some big decisions in my life. And now I feel like I fucked up because I wasted 30 years of my life. That's at least how it feels like. It's not really a waste, but that's what happens in the mind
Mhm.
of people. And I've worked with some people like that who are exactly in this situation, exactly
Mhm.
in that kind of dynamic, where they're opening up to me with all this vulnerability, realizing, like, you know what, I feel like a failure. And
Mhm.
I feel like I failed myself. I feel like I failed my wife, my husband. I feel like I failed my kids. I feel like I failed my friends. I feel like I lived a lie. I feel at the end of the day, it causes me to feel resentful. It causes me to feel anger because I am disappointed in myself that now, 30 years later, I only now realize that I didn't know what I was doing.
Mhm.
Makes me so sick of myself. Like, that's what people say in those
Mhm.
kind of sessions. And I just celebrate them in those moments. And I'm
Mhm.
like, listen, the fact that you are now for the first time not lying to yourself, but you're now allowing yourself to feel all that anger and resentment and disappointment, and realizing how you wasted 30 years, that is worthy of a celebration. Because yes, if you didn't have that realization, and you would die with all those feelings without even realizing that there is a way out, and that there is a way, like a different path, and you can choose differently from now on. And that choice can be with the same person that you have been married to, and it can be with a different person. It can be just a switch within yourself. Like, it's such a fascinating thing when something like this happens, just because they did not ask themselves and they did not spend the time to think about it. And it's about, not just about relationships, it's about everything. Like, oh my God, I ended up in this job. I ended up in this, town where I grew up. I ended up with all these people that I hang out every weekend, you know, I don't know, going golfing or grilling or something like that. And it's like, I never asked myself if I even enjoy these friendships. I never asked myself if I even want to live in the town where I was born. Like, people just don't think. They don't even question themselves. They don't have critical thinking at the end of the
Mhm.
day. That's what it comes down to. It's like they just go on this autopilot, and it's like, whatever.
And
Until 30
even
years.
they may be critical thinkers and they're not applying it in this domain.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
could also be the case. And also, I think that just asking yourself that question is very powerful, obviously. On top of that, getting coached on how to think about that question can be extremely powerful. This is what I realized with this client, because it was even when I asked that question, I realized I am thinking about it in so many ways that she may not be. Because those are her blind spots. Even asking that question, the answers that you will get from that question may be based on programming. So even asking that question, the answers are what you think you want, and they're not really what you want.
Mhm.
So that is why getting coached on that question can be very powerful, because you really start digging in. Is this really what I want? I think I want this. I feel I want this. My body feels, my heart feels I want this. But is it really what I want?
Yeah.
So I think that is where coaching can become very powerful, is that someone challenges your answer, not just asks you the question and you give answer. Someone challenges your answer.
Yeah, absolutely. And a few examples come in my mind. Like one in manifestation, let's say community, there's this huge topic of uh, manifesting a specific person.
Mm-hmm.
And I always like, I hate that thing. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what is it, this whole obsession of a specific person? Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's not about a specific person at the end of the day. It's about who you are becoming, who you are
Mm-hmm.
creating yourself, and what kind of energy and dynamic you want to create. And whether that's that person or that person or that person or those people, it doesn't matter, because what you want is a dynamic at the end of the day. So, and that whole obsession of like, oh, I want my ex back, and I want that one person that I'm so obsessed with, and I put them on a pedestal as if like, oh, that's the person I want to be with. It's like, it's so full of shit, actually. It's complete nonsense. So that's one thing that came to my mind. And the other thing that came to my mind is I lost it because I was so excited about
I
the
want
other.
to add something to what you just said, because I feel like the just on top of that is this idea that we are meant to be. And that causes a lot of suffering for a lot of people, is that this idea doesn't allow them to let go of something that is dead. And you're just trying to keep alive something that is already dead. It's not, you're trying to bring it back to life, it's dead. And this reality, resurrection is not easy.
Yeah, yeah.
The-
So actually,
go ahead.
the second thing that actually blends into this is like a lot of people, when they don't go deeper and they're not coached on what it is that you want, they automatically assume that they want, for example, oh, I want to marry, I want to
Mhm.
have kids, I want to be in this very typical, relationship dynamic. And oftentimes, what I noticed in some people is that they're just filling the void. It's like,
Mhm.
oh, when I get that, then I will be a successful person because I am, I have this thing that everybody wants. Um,
Mhm.
so, for example, it's a very different example, but somebody I know was just very unhappy in her romantic life. And, for years and years, it just either never really worked out, or she was just single basically, and there was nobody interested. And at some point, she started having this urge to have a child.
Mhm.
And then, like, it was so obvious to me that it's coming from the wrong place.
Mhm.
I was like, you are just so unhappy, and you so don't have a purpose, you haven't found yourself, that now you're trying to fill that void by adopting a child or having a baby by yourself, instead of taking responsibility for your own needs first. And
Mhm.
sure, maybe at some point you will still realize, I still want a baby. Okay, great.
Mhm.
But directly jumping to that conclusion without doing the inner work first to come to that conclusion that, you know what, after all, I do indeed want a child, that's just screwing up the child, screwing
Mhm.
up your, screwing up everything else around it in that ecosystem. And that's just really sad. And that's when coaching is so important, to really be like, okay, is it really what I want? Do I really want that child? Do I really want to marry? Do I really want to have that kind of relationship? Like, do I really want to live like this? Or is it just because I think this is what will make me happy, or will fill the void, or I will feel like I fit in, or it will feel like, you know, my parents' expectations are met, or because I will feel like I will fit in my, you know, friends because everybody's married, so I should marry too, because otherwise I feel like a weird black sheep in this group of friends, and they don't no longer invite me their birthday parties because everybody has kids and I don't. You know, all this stuff that comes up with it. So yeah, totally super important to
Very
get coaching.
interesting. Yeah, I mean, I know of people who believe, you know, like having a child will save the relationship. And they do that and they become more miserable and everything just gets more and more fucked progressively. And like you said, you know, the child's life is also fucked. So yeah. The other thing that I thought about, which I find very interesting in relation to, you know, we are talking about this whole idea of soulmates or meant to be and trying to preserve and not letting go, or like having someone who's just meant for a particular period of your life or some dynamic. There is this TV show, so just so you know and everyone knows, I love watching TV shows, I love watching movies, and I love recommending TV shows and movies. There is this TV show called God Friended Me, which is about an atheist podcaster getting a Facebook friend request from God. It's spectacular. I love this show because it's a very, very well nuanced exploration of atheism and faith and religion and relationship. So the relationships are a big part of the show also. So I really love that show. It's just 2 seasons, but it's very powerful, very profound. And one of the scenes in that show, they give this message that there's this woman from Africa, and one of the characters feels like they are soulmates. And he expresses this to her. And she says, in my culture, we believe soulmates, you can have many soulmates, and soulmates come to teach you something for a particular period of your life. So they come in phases. Even soulmates come in phases, and you can have multiple of them. So I love that message. You know, you don't like you don't have to be so invested in one person or one relationship. That doesn't mean you just go banging people all around and everyone is your soulmate. That's not also what it means. But you know, just what I feel it means is, you know, there are some relationships which may be for life, and there are some relationships which may just be for a phase, and to accept that.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why it's very, very important to not just listen to intuition, but also to remind yourself of the standards that you have, and to remind yourself what kind of boundaries you have. Set those boundaries, communicate those boundaries, and be honest about it. To be like, you know what, it's no longer in integrity with my boundaries, and it's no longer resonating, and it's no longer what I tolerate. And being firm, like sometimes it means not just breaking up with someone, but sometimes it means even ending a friendship, or being like,
yeah,
it's not okay with me anymore. Like, this is it. Like, I have moved on. I love this video by Snoop Dogg. Maybe you've seen it. This video where he talks about homies, basically people from you know, from your childhood or something, like friends that you have had for a long, long time. And he basically speaks when you start working on yourself. Ah, doggy. Is that your doggy?
Yes.
Yeah. And he speaks about when you start growing and working on yourself, and your homies, your friends stay the same and they don't do the work. And then you keep on growing. So the distance between you is growing. And then the only way is for them to start catching up with you somehow. Otherwise, you have to go down. And
Mm-hmm.
there's no way you can go down. It's impossible, actually,
Mm-hmm.
because you can't unknown what you know. It's
Mm-hmm.
there's no way back. You're only either going some, like you're staying somewhere there, or you keep on growing. So actually, he's like, yeah, at some point you need to let go of some people, because otherwise you're being held back, like energetically. It becomes too heavy. It becomes like, oh, you're being dragged behind somehow, and something is getting in the way. That doesn't automatically mean that old relationships or friendships can't stay. I have a friend from my hometown. We used to go to high school together, and I just hang out maybe once a year when I go back to Lithuania, maybe twice a year, and I love it. And every
Mm-hmm.
single time, we also say to each other that it feels like we saw each other last weekend or something. Um, does she grow? Yes, I'm sure she does. Is it in the same pace? Maybe not. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But what matters is it just feels right.
Mm-hmm.
And yet sometimes it doesn't feel right anymore. And that's what I think people need to honor more. To be like, you know what? It it will suck for a little bit. It will be painful, but it's what needs to happen. It
Mm-hmm.
feels wrong to continue a friendship or any type of relationship that's just dragging me down in some way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like soul relationships can be in any aspect, can be with your parents, can be with your uh,
Yeah.
teachers, friends, anyone. You can have a soul relationship with them and they can be present in your life for a phase or whatever. What I also experienced, because I experienced this distancing very drastically, because my initial awakening was very rough and very quick. And all of a sudden, almost no one could relate to me. So I went through a cold period where almost everyone distanced from me and I distanced from everyone. And then after quite a long time, several relationships rekindled and reconnected. So that also happens, like sometimes it's just a break, it's just a pause. And also sometimes the distance is beautiful. And what I mean by that is that you may be at some point in your self-development and another person may be at a completely different point, and that contrast actually helps you in that phase. What you need in this phase is the contrast. You need someone who is so far from your reality to help you to see something.
Yeah.
So I think there are no rules here. And anything can be a teacher. Again, just repeating that.
Mm. Okay, I feel like we can talk about all of this
Yes.
forever. And it's so interesting how we initially wanted to speak about something slightly different, and yet it
Mhm.
turned into this whole romantic relationships at first, and then relationships overall, and growth and learning and opportunities and all these kind of things. But it's yeah, it's honestly it's also a cornerstone of and the foundation of life, really, because
Mhm.
everything is a relationship at the end of the day. Like, I had a conversation with someone on Friday, and she asked me, like, how did you decide to work and help people work on their relationships? And I was like, because we can't without relationships. there's no existence without relationships. Who we are and how we experience life is a relationship already, like the relationship we have with infinite amounts of versions of ourselves. And then everything that we do with other people, it's all like everything is based on relationships. So how can we not? And it's just awesome that we had this conversation.
And the relationship to life also, like the relationship to self, the relationship to life, the relationship to others, everything is a relationship. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. So thank you. Thank you for
Yeah.
somehow it happened like naturally, like so yeah.
Yeah, this was not even a planned conversation. We just started messaging in the morning and here we are.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I feel good closing here. I have an idea I want to explore with you quickly.
Yeah. Okay.
While we were talking, I thought it would be very interesting to do a duo coaching for relationships. The two of us coaching people on that question that we were discussing and doing it live. Or
So
doing
you
it,
inviting
people, like making it an open invitation. If someone wants to be coached on that question or on relationships, or even if a couple wants to be coached.
Yeah. Sure.
And they want to do it live. They are okay with being recorded. They're okay with it being public. I think it can be fascinating.
Yeah, totally. Let's do that.
This is the invitation. If anyone watches this and wants to do it, just let us know. I think it can be so interesting that the two sides that we are coming from to coach someone or a couple together can be super interesting.
I'm super curious.
Yeah. Yeah, if someone volunteers, it will be, I think it will be very interesting.
Invitation into the ether. Just setting a signal to the universe. Whatever happens, happens. Awesome. Thank you. So I just feel very chilled because this is, like you said, it's a very spontaneous jump on a call on a Sunday afternoon, and I'm just in such a calm place, like, you know,
non-German,
usually
non-German
energy and a lot. Yeah, like usually I have all this like, you know, a lot of energy going on, and today I'm like so chilled and relaxed, and I was also looking at some neighbors walking around and like and my kitty walking around. That's how I was looking, and it's like, it's yeah, I'm really grateful for this conversation. It was really awesome, very unexpected and really awesome.